Hello, listener. Welcome back to your second homemade guided meditation session. The title of today's meditation is Celebrating the Joys You Never Thought to Ask For. As the seasons begin to change between summer and fall, between the relative ease of September and busyness of October, I want to spend some time noticing the trademarks of our existence that we typically brush past without batting an eye. As humans, we happen to be psychologically tuned to dedicate our attention to things that are novel or surprising. That's probably what kept us alive when we were hunters and gatherers not too long ago. But in the 21st century, our ordinary is on the macro scale quite extraordinary. We interact with objects, experiences, and concepts that no other organism in the world could even begin to understand. Today's meditation is about rekindling this feeling of awe for the extraordinary aspects of ordinary life. Listener, there's a part of me that's scared that by the end, you'll perhaps rightly accuse me of repackaging age-old morals and idioms with shiny wrapping paper, passing it off as something new. Voila, a guided meditation. Such idioms include, it's the little things that matter in life, or consider how much worse things could be, or be grateful for what you have. I don't know about you, but while such idioms retain their grain of truth, I sometimes feel immune to them. When you hear a phrase enough, formerly hard-hitting strings of words can start feeling like hollow cliches. Indeed, part of the mindful person's toolkit is being able to find refreshing ways to remind ourselves of what we know in our minds, but do not feel. Accordingly, I hope today's meditation will help you connect with the things that are going right in your life that you might not have the time, presence of mind, or optimal environment to recognize otherwise. The meditative technique we'll be using today is called negative visualization. It's attributed to the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and the likes. The premise is quite simple, and I'm sure many of you have engaged in it without having some cool Greek names to tie it back to. Negative visualization simply requires you to choose an entity that brings value to your life. You then spend a couple of moments imagining a reality in which this chosen entity does not exist. How would things look different? How would you feel in this entity's absence or non-existence? For some, this kind of thinking might hash out feelings of fear or anxiety for the precarity of all good things. But the point here is not to brood over non-existent, depressing versions of reality. It's instead to posit these realities' existence and then intentionally return to your current state in which these entities very much do exist. I'll walk you through it in a second as we attempt negative visualization 3 times. Once for an object, once for an experience, and once for a place. I'll do it with you. For the purposes of this meditation, I want you to choose mundane entities that you haven't thought to compliment or praise before. If you can't think of anything, feel free to steal any of my selections for objects, experiences, or places. Sweet. Let's get into it. Close your eyes or relax your gaze. Take a couple of deep breaths. Allowing and gently requesting that your mind settle down. Begin by choosing an object. Make it an object that you encounter regularly, something that bleeds into the background of your day, a likely unacknowledged prop in the movie sequence of your life. Visualize a vivid scene in which you walk into a room where you'd regularly find your object. Yet today you walk in and your object is absent or has been replaced with something that produces the exact opposite effect. How do you react to the scene? What does this mean for your routine ways of experiencing life? Allow me to give you an example. My chosen object is the glass window pane in front of my desk. I negatively visualize a reality in which my window pane was instead covered by a thick layer of concrete. I imagine waking up in the morning and not being greeted by the glorious rays of sunshine. Instead, I meet the darkness of my room. Scuffling to find a light switch, I eventually turn it on, and my eyes are instantly assaulted by the artificial burst of bright light. It's nothing like the warm embrace of sunshine cascading across my face. When I'm the one turning on the lights, I feel as though I'm responsible for starting my day. And in considering this thought, I immediately feel a sense of dread. Luckily, in a world with glass window panels, I don't have to decide when my day begins. The sun rays can do it for me. And I bask in this appreciation. I now invite you to try to negatively visualize your chosen object. Remember to choose something that's all too easy to ignore, whose value remains unstated in your life. Picture a world in which this object has suddenly been removed or replaced without asking for your approval. Make this as graphic and visceral as possible. If you can't think of an object, feel free to continue on with my window example. Having gotten a taste for a world without this object, I invite you to now return to this world. Picture your chosen object again, slowly reappearing within the room, and allow feelings of appreciation to fill you from within. I'd now like to pivot to considering a mundane, everyday experience. See if you can connect your chosen experience to a sense other than sight. Try a touch, smell, sound, or taste. My chosen experience will be the sound of laughter. What would the world look like if laughter was not a thing? After every so-called joke, you'd hear just pure silence. Feel free to join me in considering a world devoid of laughter, or choose your own sensory experience to negatively visualize. I'll meet you on the other side. In my laughter example, I imagined a children's playground. It was unsettlingly quiet, and I couldn't help but feel for the kids who'd never be able to laugh so loud that they couldn't hear what their friends were saying. In a world without laughter, dinner table conversations would hardly be so animated. Nothing to mask the clinking and clanking of plates and cutlery. So, I now take a minute to deeply value that laughter is an active ingredient in the auditory landscape we inhabit. And I turn it over to you to take a moment to value whatever sensory experience you chose to consider. In our final round of negative visualization, I ask you to choose a place, a very particular place. Don't choose Disneyland or the entirety of France. Choose a very specific place, a tiny corner in existence that you visit regularly. In honor of our Vic community, I'm choosing the bench facing the Vic quad. Now, negatively visualize a world in which your relationship with this place is radically altered. Either you never found or noticed it in the first place, or it was simply gone by daylight tomorrow. I just found myself considering the myriads of conversations that the benches outside Vic have housed. People of all ages, with so many diverse goals and concerns, each expressing what was most imminent on their minds. An erasure of that bench is an erasure of all those memories from history. I end by recognizing how my chosen place of Vic's benches have become a space much greater than just a frame and a few wooden panels. It's a site for years of exchange and pause. Reflect on how your chosen place, which can be, of course, as simple as a bench, means for our collective experience of the world. that concludes our sampling of negative visualization. In the upcoming weeks, I encourage you to negatively visualize other neglected and unappreciated marks of existence. And each time, really try to make it vivid enough that you can push past any unthinking acceptance that that's just the way things are. Instead, ask the question, what if they weren't? I'd like to end this meditation by reading you an excerpt from a commencement speech that David Foster Wallace gave at Kenyon University. Wallace uses a story in his speech that is incredibly on theme for today's meditation. And so, from this point on, I offer you Wallace's words and not mine. He begins. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" The point of the fish story is merely that the most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. Stated as an English sentence, of course, this is just a banal platitude. But the fact is that in the day-to-day trenches of adult existence, banal platitudes can have a life or death importance. The real value of a real education, which has almost nothing to do with knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us, all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This is water.